Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that proceedings under the call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise today to discuss the background check amendment proposed by our colleagues, Senator Manchin and Senator Toomey. Madam President, I grew up in Northern Maine, where responsible gun ownership is part of the heritage of virtually every family. In fact, I can't think of a family in my hometown of Caribou that did not have firearms. Constitutional rights pertain to the individual. As we have studied this important issue during the past several months, I have met with countless people who hold a wide range of views. They include the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, known as SAM, Maine's law enforcement officials, the NRA, victims of gun violence, licensed gun dealers, firearms manufacturers, mental health professionals, and school superintendents, among many others. And these discussions have been so helpful to me as I seek to better understand the issues that confront us as we seek to shape this bill. We've discussed issues including the inadequacy of mental health services, the gaps in the reporting of data to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, school safety, excessive violence in video games and movies, the lack of effective laws for gun trafficking, and straw purchases that are aimed at getting guns in the hands of criminals. Those are just some of the many, many issues that I've had the benefit of discussing with my constituents. As a result of these extensive discussions, I have decided to support the bipartisan compromise authored by Senators Joe Manchin and Pat Toomey. Their bipartisan effort would strengthen the background check system without in any way infringing on our Second Amendment rights. I would note that their proposal represents a vast improvement over the provisions currently in the bill, legislation, those particular provisions that were drafted by Senator Schumer. I oppose the background check provisions drafted by Senator Schumer that are in the bill now. They would require, for example, a son or daughter as a gift, or a brother selling a hunting rifle to his background checks. I found that to be completely unnecessary and onerous. In addition, the bill that is on the floor now has burdensome paperwork requirements that are unnecessary and that many believe are unworkable as well. By contrast, the Manchin-Toomey compromise takes a much more common sense approach by requiring background checks only for commercial transactions, and their approach clearly exempts family gifts and transfers and truly private sales. Their amendment protects private sellers from lawsuits if the weapon is cleared through the expanded background check and is subsequently used in a crime. That is the same kind of protection that licensed gun dealers receive now. The compromise also authorizes the use of a state concealed carry permit instead of a background check when purchasing a firearm from a dealer, recognizing the rigorous background checks and approval process these concealed carry permits require. Their amendment also improves interstate travel laws for sportsmen and sportswomen who transport their firearms across state lines in a responsible way. The term transport includes staying in temporary lodging overnight, stopping for food, buying fuel, vehicle maintenance, and medical treatment. To improve the quality and the completeness of the data in the NICS, their amendment would also mandate improvements that would require states and the federal government to send relevant records on criminals and people who are dangerously mentally ill through state plans that are developed in conjunction with the Department of Justice. Another important improvement made by the Manchin-Toomey bill, since we know that there are gaps in the reporting that make the bill also fixes an unjust database without due process. The amendment requires a veteran to receive extra due process prior to losing his or her right to buy a gun. That is only fair. Specifically, it requires that the VA either establish or designate a board for the purpose of hearing appeals by veterans who are considered adjudicated as mentally ill, and the veteran can appeal directly to this board or an outside court of jurisdiction. Madam President, it was critical to my support of the Manchin-Toomey amendment that it explicitly bans the federal government from creating a national firearms registry. I am completely and unalterably opposed to creating a national registry of gun owners that would be maintained in Washington by the federal government. The bill imposes serious criminal penalties on any individual who misuses or illegally retains firearms records. I'm also pleased that the Manchin-Toomey proposal would create a national commission on mass violence. This is a proposal that I have long advocated and is very much needed. It would convene experts to study all aspects of these horrible attacks and mass murders that have plagued our country, caused so much anguish to the families left behind, and have caused unbearable anguish for the survivors as well. Now, Madam President, obviously this debate is now really just beginning on the Senate floor, and the Manchin-Toomey amendment is just one of many that will be considered. Some I will support, others I will strongly oppose. It is impossible to predict at this early point, before we have cast a single vote on the many amendments that have been filed to this bill, what the bill will look like in the final analysis and whether or not I shall be able to support it. But I do believe that the Manchin-Toomey background check amendment is a reasonable, common sense, thoughtful proposal that I can and will support. Thank you, Madam President.